So I want to walk it back a little bit and touch on a topic that I sort of is a motif that I always bring up. So when I was playing water polo, I'm not a big guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm 5'9", probably 180 when I was playing, so I'm not a big guy at all. However, I always found myself playing set, just because I had a lot of experience comparatively to those around me, and I was definitely not the strongest, but certainly one of the more aggressive people in the water. So that's where I found myself. And I found that I had to make up for my lack of size and strength with being very technically proficient and efficient. And obviously, with a player like you, you're able to have that size and strength and that technicality and proficiency. In the ODP program, when I was going through it, we had guys that were very big, but not as much as experience. So how do you get guys that do have the size right down? How do you get them to focus on the technicality and experience if they don't have other guys that force them to do so at the local level where they're playing, right?
Yeah. Um, I'm a stubborn guy. You can ask about it anyway. I'm very, very stubborn. I like to speak my mind. If that's always appreciated, that's something else. Conversation for another day. But so what happened to me is I was always a fast swimmer, so I didn't want to play center. That's for the slow guys, and I'd rather shoot, right? And so I kind of always refused to go and play center. So I just kind of worked on everything but being a center. And then to a point in time, if you're a better shooter than you are a center, then, the balance is kind of like, well, do we really need him there? Because he's going to be better somewhere else. And so I was training with some of UC Santa Barbara's before coming to the U.S. I was, debating of moving out there and, doing a year of high school in the U.S. before going to college. But I was training with some, and they were very adamant about, I was training with the club team, and they're like, we're going to make this. Yeah, they really wanted to put me as a center, because how often are you going to find a 6'8" guy that's playing water polo that,
250.
Yeah, they got 250 on us playing for sure. So, and if I was going to be a center, then, they probably would have thrown on some more weight, right? But to me, I was like, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I, at a point in time, said, you know what, I'm not going to come even and play for you and consider playing for you if you think about making me a center. Like, it's off the table. And for that, they're like, realized, okay, we can't force this on him. So I think I was lucky enough to be stubborn to say, hey, you know what, just because I'm big, that doesn't mean I have to play this position. Now, over time, I got better at it. By no means am I a great center, but I can hold my own, right? With enough training, I could be decent at it, but I'm good enough to go in and post up or play a few possessions. But I think for those kids out there that have the size, right, don't pigeonhole yourself, because internationally today, the best players are the ones that can play almost anywhere. They're the ones that can play on the right side, on the left side, guard, play center. Because if you're a utility player like that, every coach is going to find a way to use you. If that means 1 year you're going to play on the right side, the next on the left, and everything, you just up the amount of minutes you can get. And for some reason, people love to specialize. They say it to themselves, I'm a driver. It's like, okay, but if a defender goes on a drive, isn't he a driver too? It's like, you should be able to do everything, and that's something you have to, be willing to stand up for too. If you want to be a really talented player in any sport, you have to at least understand, for the most part, what does each position do. Maybe you excel in one more than the other, but that's all the more reason for you to keep focusing on the ones you aren't as good at, because that's how you're going to grow and provide the most value you can, right? If you can do the most, then you're going to be useful somewhere.
So I appreciate you just keep on teeing these up for me, because it's just kind of rolling into the perfect next question. But so we had Sean Grady, just personal friend of ours, like my team captain in high school. By no means the most sizable individual, but in high school down in Florida, he was the strongest person I think I had ever met. So he was our whole set.
He was a big boy real early.
He was he's just a sizable dude, but the height wasn't there. But I mean, he's just a big boy. So he played set for us, and then he went out to Pacific in 2013, and he played wing for them for the most part, because he was a little bit smaller. He was quick. I mean, he all-star times like in high school for swimming, things like that. So kind of to the point that you were making, is that something that college coaches bestow on you, is being kind of that jack of all trades? Or is that something for a potential high school listener? Is that something that you need to kind of come to that realization on your own beforehand because it'll serve you better in college? Or is that, hey, I might have a specialty coming in, but they'll fit me into the system, hopefully, to where I can kind of thrive? Like, I was just curious if there was a line of distinction there.
It probably varies per program. I think the earlier you realize that, the more value you'll mean to any coach is when you can do something of everything, right? It's kind of simple. Like if they need a driver and you can drive, great, it's a fit. If they need a guard and you know how to play, great, it's a fit. Like the coaches will develop you to what they really need. But if you show potential to do just about anything, that leaves your options for playing time just that much more open. You mentioned your friend that played at UOP, Sean. He was a center in college, but he didn't have the size to maybe hold it in college, or in high school he was a center, but in college he might not have had the size. But because he had that skill and background in a different part of his game, now he got to play on the wing and probably be an excellent post-up player. Now when he matches up against a smaller guy, he's going to have the upper hand because he knows what he's doing, right? And I think if he never swam, then that option would have been taken away from him. If he wasn't as quick, then the value of a player like that would just kind of slowly become less. And college coaches are going to find guys that fit in their culture. At the end of the day, they can teach you just about anything. They've got 4 years to just develop a bunch of skills. So I don't think people have to be worried, right? A coach, that's the coach from Team USA, Dan Udovic, had with me. He's like, you've got size. I can teach you just about anything else, right? And so one year you're going to have a different role than the next. I saw it throughout college. I started off being kind of a 1-2 side player, occasionally guard. Next year it was more guarding and a lot of 1-2, a little bit of everywhere. And then my junior, senior year, it was almost all the time 4-5 side and position 3 on offense. But I basically never, like, I transitioned and flip-flopped around. And I hear that from a lot of players. Some guys start as centers and become guards, right? Because they can swim, because they know how to handle the ball. So I wouldn't worry too much going into it what your past has. Just think of it as skills you've already acquired, right? And then moving forward, you just know what areas you have to work on. And for a lot of guys, that's swimming. Don't hide behind the I'm a center, therefore I'm not fast kind of image. Take a guy like Matt Farmer. He's not big. You guys spoke to him not too long ago. By no means is he a big guy, but he worked on his hands. He worked on his shooting. He worked on his swimming, right? The guy would crush people in swim sets. The guy would, be a good shooter. You couldn't just leave him if he was on top and dropped off of. He would shoot and he would score, right? It's because he developed that part of his game too to provide value in any position he came into. And those are the most threatening players all around it, right? You see at a collegiate level, they start to drop off of people who are maybe in the wrong position or not good shooters. If you can take that away from them and not let them drop off of you at any position, right, you're valuable to every single coach.
Yeah, fair enough.